Good evening and thanks for staying with us here at the 9 p.m. edition of the Urban Debate. Viewers, another law has been brought in for the NCR region to tackle pollution. As the pollution problem worsens year after year in the national capital and the whole of NCR region, as state governments and central government fight and bicker and indulge in blame game, as courts from National Green Tribunal to High Court and Supreme Court look into each matter and come up with order after order in the hope that things will change. Here is one more new thing that has been added. So tonight we are going to talk about what will it take to really get a hold on the pollution in the national capital. But first, let me tell you what this law really is. It's an ordinance that's been passed. It will set up an 18-member commission. This commission will be headed by a chairperson who will be appointed by the central government. It will also have representatives from the neighboring states of Delhi. So while being headquartered in Delhi, it will have representatives from Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh and Rajasthan. Obviously, the Chief Secretary of the state government of Delhi and the others will be part of this. Now, what does it do? It will look into various aspects of pollution and will even have the powers to penalize the violators, send him to jail for 5 years, fine them up to 1 crore if required. That power has been given, and in fact, offences under this law are non-cognizable. What will they look into? Stubble burning across states, vehicular pollution, dust pollution, all the other factors that we often debate about here on Mirror Now, about the factors that lead to pollution in Delhi. I hope, viewers, this body, this new law is actually going to bring about a change. I hope. I am not too sure. And I will tell you why. We have enough laws in our country. We have enough pollution control boards and authorities and task force and panels in our country. We have over 100 orders from the Supreme Court to tackle pollution. And in this show, I will also take you through the history of a fight against pollution in Delhi over the last 3 decades. For 3 decades, we've been trying to get a hold on it and we haven't managed. We also have a series of committees which are already existent. Does this law supersede everything else? Then what is it that the Environment Pollution Prevention and Control Authority or the EPCA will do? What is it that the Central Pollution Control Board will do? What is it that the Pollution Task Force under PMO will do? Or the LG Pollution Committee will do? What is it that the committee that's been set up under the Environment Ministry will do? Or the Delhi Pollution Control Committee will do? Or the Task Specific Committee for Parking, Task Specific Committee for Fuel will do? We have too many commissions, committees already. How will this be different? Let's begin with that question. And I say good evening to Vivek Chattopadhyay, Senior Program Manager for Air Pollution Control at the Center for Science and Environment in New Delhi. Charu Pragya of the BJP, Reena Gupta of the Aam Aadmi Party, and Ritvik Datta, founder for Legal Initiative for Forest and Environment, an environment lawyer. Charu Pragya, let's start with you. What will this commission do? Does it supersede everything else?
Tanvi, it does, and this is actually a commission which is not a toothless tiger. There is going to be accountability and issues are going to be resolved by fixing accountability, because in this case now for the first time, one, there is stringent punishment involved, and secondly, the concerned head of the departments who are at fault are going to be held liable, and that is a huge step forward towards environmentalism. Bharatiya Janata Party is a party which walks the talk. A commission like this was mentioned only a few days prior to the Supreme Court, and today we see an ordinance has already been passed. We have seen seen that Aam Aadmi Party government in Delhi has not been able to tackle this situation for many, many years. And I think this must be the fourth or the fifth year in actual consequence that we have sat and discussed this exact same issue at this exact same time. And it's unfortunate that all the blame game happens and Arvind Kejriwal ji is going to be blaming the governments of the neighboring states. He is going to be blaming Paryali. He is going to be blaming Diwali, where he does not understand that you have to control the pollution at source. And what is the source in Delhi? You have to control traffic. You have to make sure the traffic situation improves by improving public transportation. You have to put a stop to construction, as the Supreme Court said. Supreme Court actually banned construction in Delhi, but the government was not able to implement it. And you have to control the dust particulate matter. When you put all of this together, Aam Aadmi Party government has failed miserably, and thankfully the central government has stepped in.
So what is the central firstly, I don't think you should be patting your own back for setting up a commission or for bringing an ordinance before we see what it does. It's a problem that's now we've discussed, debated, set up committees, brought in laws, changed policies for over 3 decades. So let's not get too happy about setting up another commission to begin with, Charu Pragya. What is it that they will do to manage the traffic situation in Delhi?
To manage the traffic situation in Delhi, the most important thing is to stick to at least what is the basics. What is the requirement for Delhi for buses, for example? It's minimum 10,000 buses. Make it 12,000, it's even better. How many buses fly in Delhi? Around 3,000.
Yeah, but that's Delhi government's job. Is the commission going to be telling Delhi government right away bring in 2,000 buses or else I will jail you?
No, definitely not. But at least promise, deliver the promised buses. For the last 6 years, I've only heard that Delhi government is going to add buses to the fleet. I have not seen it happen. In all the manifestos, they have promised 5,000 new buses.
So that's fine.
What do they do instead?
And
they pull off buses off the regular routes. You are not improving public transportation like this. You are spoiling it even further. Right.
But that's not the point of the conversation. I'm trying to understand what the new law and the new commission does now.
The new
it's surely not going to replace the Delhi government.
No, not at all. But the new commission is going to bring together all the governments of the neighboring states, including the government of Delhi. Make sure all the stakeholders are on one proper table so discussions can happen and accountability can be fixed. Like I said, the head of the department of every single department is going to be personally responsible for a lot of things. See, this could have been solved if this had not become just a seasonal issue. Unfortunately, this has become a seasonal issue. We enjoyed clean air in Delhi only for the few short months in lockdown. And why was that? That's because all external extra activities were put to a stop. There was no Parali burning happening. There was no Diwali happening. But we see that with the control on industries, with the control on traffic, Delhi can actually breathe good, happy air. And we need to make that a year-round thing. We cannot start the discussion just before Diwali every single year and suffer through the winter months.
Okay. Reena Gupta, does your party welcome this move? You, for the longest time, have been saying the states need to come together, work together, coordinate together. At least this commission will ensure that Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, Delhi, Rajasthan and the center are all at the same table.
So, let me begin with saying that I do not see anything new in this ordinance. It's just old wine in new bottle. See, we already had a body called EPCA for 20 years. EPCA had all the powers which have been promised in this new commission. EPCA had the power to cut off electricity, cut off water of polluting industries. But did EPCA do anything in the 20 years? Not even a single instance where EPCA actually used its powers under the EPA Act or under the Air Act. It did not. Because there is no political will to actually do anything. And I'm very sorry to say that even with this commission, I see it's the same thing. Unless you have political will, you could have used the existing laws to shut down the power plants. The 10 power plants in the 200-kilometer radius of Delhi, which have been polluting for years. And Supreme Court and CPCB have been cognizant of the fact that they're polluting. What does the CPCB do? The CPCB sends them a letter writing, requesting them, can you please stop polluting? Why can't the CPC be under its powers which exist under the law? Could have just shut down all those power plants, but it did not do that. So, and then again, this year, for even during GRAP, which is, institutionalized by EPCA, under GRAP, EPCA asked all the states to shut down their diesel generators. Delhi is the only state which shut down the diesel generators. Haryana, Punjab, especially Haryana said we cannot shut down diesel generators because we have societies which run only on diesel gensets. So the point that I'm trying to make is that unless you have political will to do things, political will to take hard actions, I do not see anything changing. Even under this new commission, where is the accountability? If the commission does not perform in the 5 years, who are we going to hold accountable to? The commission is filled with bureaucrats. Why can't we have a body where you have the Union Environment Minister heading the commission and you have chief ministers from all the states? Because, these are the chief ministers who are going to be held accountable by the people. I mean, the commission can exist in perpetuity and not show any results. Having said that, I want to just respond to a few things that our dear panelist from BJP was making. See, as far as buses are concerned, we have been trying to get the buses. There are 6,600 buses. 1,100 have been added in the last 1 year, and 4,000 more are going to be added. But Delhi has its limitations. We have been asking the DDA for parking space for buses. Unless we get parking space, where are we going to park the buses? So BJP loves to come on these TV programs and blame the Delhi government for everything. But I'm sorry to say the Delhi government is the only government which has actually done anything. We have shut down the power plants. We have moved all the polluting industries to cleaner fuel. We
Because
have
the court
launched the
told you
most
to.
policy.
Can I respond?
No, please let me finish. I did not interrupt.
You shut down the plants because the court told you to, and you took your own time to do that even then.
In the center, please name 2 things that it did. Mrs. Sitaraman promised 4,400 crores for the Clean Air program. I'm yet to see a penny of that money. The Chief Minister of Delhi has been requesting the center to call a meeting of all the Chief Ministers of neighboring states. The union government has not done a single thing to get all the states together.
Happen.
Can I, Tanvi,
Yeah,
can I
but see,
respond?
again, I don't want to go into a blame game. I don't want to get into a blame game. Everybody can see what the situation is outside. You need to look out your window and see what the smog condition is. You need to step into Delhi and breathe for the first 10 seconds and you will know exactly what the situation is. And everybody realizes that it's a collective failure which has happened. Now, let me, in fact, take our viewers and our panelists through the journey of the last 3 decades. It's a losing battle over the last 3 decades that the national capital and surrounding areas have witnessed. And I'm starting with one point, which was the day and the month in 1994 where ambient air quality standards were introduced. When conversations had begun to get louder about the worsening air quality in Delhi, and so these air quality standards were introduced. The same year, in August, Supreme Court mandated that the leaded petrol or leaded fuel should be phased out. It was a big development and a big story that led to massive changes. It was the Supreme Court that stepped in a case of pollution and said, let's do this. It was in November 1996 when the Supreme Court banned brick kilns within the Delhi city limit. It was in December 1996 when the Supreme Court ordered closure of 168 industrial units in NCR, a decision no government would have taken. In 1998, the EPCA was set up. EPCA was set up in 98, viewers, simply to tackle the pollution issues of the national capital region of the NCR. In July 1998, the Supreme Court asked all public transport to be converted into CNG. Then that too did not yield the desired results. The problem persisted. Then the Supreme Court in September also said that vehicles that are 15 years old should not be allowed. Let's ban those as well. The air quality standards were revised. The government brought in the BS4 standards in Delhi in 2010. That was a massive overall change that happened because obviously traffic and vehicular pollution is a big factor. In January 2014, we even established AQI, the National Air Quality Index that now you and I refer to so commonly, was set up in 2014 for this very reason, because we needed to understand what was going on to tackle it. Environment cess was brought in. GRAP and Graded Response Action Plan was established in 2016. In 2016 again, Delhi, Haryana, Rajasthan governments were told to deregister diesel vehicles which were older than 10 years. Again, it was the court that had to step in and do this. Then the Supreme Court in 2017 banned the sale of vehicles which are not BS4 compliant. And I can go on and on. Instance after instance in 2018, 2019, multiple authorities being set up, new commissions being put into place to replace the old ones. That's all that we have done. Yet today we look at a situation where Delhi has become a gas chamber. Why? What's going wrong and what has to be done now? That is the question I have for my experts. Vivek Chattopadhyay, let's begin with you.
Yeah.
Will a new law, Mr. Chattopadhyay, really help solve the problem?
See, always there is an expectation when a new law comes, and this new law is very ambitious when you read the ordinance. It for the first time says that executive or the government is going to take responsibility, full responsibility of clean air in the National Capital Region and adjoining states, Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh and Rajasthan. So it's a big move by the central government, but the way they will do it, it is still unclear because state jurisdictions are different. So are we saying that National Clean Air Authority that we are setting up for this NCR region is going to have overpower, they will have more powers than the states to enforce laws, or they will complement the laws? And also often it is seen then when a committee is fully comprised of say bureaucrats, it is never becomes a what do you say, a partial committee. We need an independent Supreme Court monitored committee. That is the reason we had so far EPCA, and that has resulted into massive changes in so many factors. Why we are failing because we haven't worked on many areas. For example, we haven't been able to deal with the private vehicles. Their numbers have been galloping, and diesel vehicles have increased. That is the reason, because of the past government's policy of keeping the diesel prices low. Now the World Health Organization has said that diesel exhaust is a class 1 carcinogen. Now the government is aware. So now they are discouraging. And also the BS6 standards have been implemented on date by the Supreme Court order. So I think it's a move by the central government to take away the court's intervention, which is little worrisome, because if you do not have independent oversight as well as honest oversight on this public health issue of clean air, we cannot achieve our targets. And our central government has made a national clean air program. It has set very lax targets, 20 to 25% improvement in next 4 years. Delhi needs to reduce its pollution by 76%, and you are setting a target of 25% for the next 4 years. So are we going to wait for decades? Why we are why we are not serious about the air pollution? That is the biggest issue. And hopefully this commission is going to work in that way, That's what I can say at this moment, because it has taken away the powers or the dealing with the judiciary. That is a non-welcome,
Right.
or don't welcome step. But if they work in honesty and they work with full powers, they can do it. But the political will and the bureaucratic hurdles should be reduced. Then only Delhi NCR and this entire region will have clean air.
Yes, well, in fact, like because you mentioned that point, all appeals that may emerge from the action that this commission takes, an appeal can only be sent to the National Green Tribunal. No civil court will have jurisdiction to entertain any suit that arises out of action taken by this commission. So, let me ask this question to Ritvik Datta. Mr. Datta, what's your own view of this new ordinance that's been brought in?
My first response is very clear, and that is that if you look at 22 years of EPCA's functioning, there has been one great achievement of EPCA. EPCA was formed in 98 with the purpose of improvement in the quality of air in the National Capital Region of Delhi, NCR. And in 22 years, because of EPCA's functioning and the powers that it got directly from the Supreme Court, it has ensured that all the NCR cities, specifically Faridabad, Gurgaon, Delhi, Ghaziabad, are today in the list of 10 most polluted cities in the world. Right? So if we start praising the work of EPCA, the test is not what steps EPCA has taken. The test is, are we breathing clean air in the last 22 years since EPCA has formed? It is clear that EPCA is a story of failure. And that story of failure is principally because EPCA had failed to take any action against polluters. No action was taken. In 22 years, EPCA had the power to issue direction and file criminal complaints against the polluter. It did not file a single complaint. It had the power to entertain citizens' grievances. It never addressed citizens' grievance. So in a way, it is a welcome step, because the court monitored or a subordinate body like EPCA, created a series of problems, multiplicity of authorities, and it actually did not serve the purpose. So I welcome the decision to wind up EPCA. Having said that, there is nothing new in the new commission that has been formed. Nothing new. It repeats the same mistakes that has been done in EPCA. It is a body, it is a top heavy body. It is to be headed by a former secretary to the government of India. There is no qualification required, right, as to whether the person has any expertise, interest, or drive to protect the purpose of environment and to clean up the air. That's number one. For all the rest of the members, if you look at it, you have 5 chief secretaries or the secretary environment as members of the body. 2 persons who are former joint secretaries to the government. Rest of it is all of them are associated only with government institutions. 3 NGOs are member. But most important, they have allowed for institutions, representative bodies of industry and commerce to be made members, not of farmers. So today, the main purpose was farmers and stubble, but who all have been made members? The Ministry of Agriculture, yes, fine, but they've added Ministry of Petroleum, Ministry of Industry, Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Housing, but no Ministry of Labor. Today, when a construction stops, the labor is affected. If you want to deal with stubble burning, Ministry of Rural Development is required. And ultimately, this is a health issue. The Ministry of Health has no place in this wonderful committee that has been formed, or commission. And also, it is completely wrong to say that any new power has been given. If they want to impose a fine or they want to send somebody to jail, the commission will have to file a complaint before a judicial magistrate first class. And so who will file the complaint? The chief secretary of the state or the secretary environment will file a complaint before a magistrate. The magistrate will hold the same secretary responsible for violation. And this is the same power that was given to EPCA. And in 22 years, EPCA also could not file a single complaint because it will be the bureaucrats filing a complaint against themselves. So what have we learned from it? And if you look at it here, final point is they're saying, they can impose 1 crore fine. Now NGT is imposing 200 crore fine, 300 crore fine. They have now put an upper limit. You cannot exceed 1 crore. Pollute as much as you want, so long as the upper limit is 1 crore. I really say, we did not need, definitely we needed EPCA to go, but the replacement is worse than what we have in EPCA. That's what I would say.
Do you want to respond to what the experts are saying?
Yeah, definitely. And I've been hearing in Tanvi very, very carefully. And I seem to think that most of the people on this panel are extreme pessimists. I am looking at things from a better point of view. When responsibilities are fixed, all the way from DTC to government heads, what makes you feel that they will not fulfill those roles? This is a time of complete. Okay, sorry, I got Tanvi?
No, we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Okay, sorry. So this is a time where absolute control of these bodies is possible because the citizens are very well aware and they can keep track of things. Delhi government has an annual budget of 65,000 crores. How much of this budget is allocated to environment? 52 crore, not even 1%. And for a city like Delhi, where the main concern is air pollution, shouldn't at least 2% be devoted to the environment? What happens to the green cess that had been collected over the years? None of it was spent. Where was it spent? Nobody knows. So it's all very well and good to come and start criticizing someone who's actually taking a firm stand to improve the situation in Delhi. And the Aam Aadmi Party spokesperson was asking me what the BJP has done. Forget what the entire party or what the central government has done. Our one MP, who's MP from Delhi, has set up a smog tower, has been working on reducing the height of the landfill. What Aam Aadmi Party does, they falsely advertise that air pollution levels are going down, paste plasters of posters all over the city, and then they eat their words because obviously the air pollution levels have not gone down. This year they have a new trick up their sleeves. If they've not followed odd even, they've made people stand on the streets, on the roads at signals with placards in their hand. So that is how they combat pollution. Instead of coming up with hard things which are going to make a difference to the lives of people, it's all propaganda and money spent on advertising. No real work. Where is the water sprinkler? Where are the smog towers? Where are the new buses? You are talking about 1,100 buses, ma'am. They were added just 2 months before elections. I am well aware of when and what number of buses were added to the city and for what reason they were added. Please move beyond political gimmicks. Please start working for the welfare of the city.
Tanvi, can I respond now?
Reena Gupta, respond to that, please.
Yeah, so, our dear esteemed panelist from BJP does not really understand the pollution issue very well. Air pollution does not recognize state boundaries.
I also understand gimmicks.
Air pollution does not recognize state boundaries. And I'm going to quote 2 figures, and these are not figures which I have cooked up. These are figures of very esteemed organizations. TERI came out with a report in 2018, which said that 64% of PM 2.5 in Delhi originates from outside Delhi. CSE, a panelist is on this program from CSE. CSE last year published a report which said that Delhi pollution has gone down by 25%. So please, I do not lie, we do not lie, and we do not believe in gimmicks. Having said that, I will name just 4 or 5 things that we have done in Delhi. We have shut down all the 3 power plants. And why have BJP states of Haryana and UP not shut down the polluting power plants? First. Second, the Supreme Court has been asking the neighboring state to shut down all the old and polluting brick kilns. There are at least 1,600 brick kilns still in UP and in Ghaziabad area that are polluting the air in Delhi. Why have they not moved to improve technology? We have come out with the most progressive EV policy. Nobody forced us to come out with an electric vehicle policy. We took that initiative. So we are doing everything which is under the purview of the Delhi government. But there is only so much that Delhi can do. Unless all the neighboring states come together, we will just continue to keep having these debates on the program every year. Pollution, it's not a seasonal issue. We have to work throughout the year We have to set targets. We have to set accountability mechanisms. The central government should incentivize the states. It should make the polluting states pay. At the same time, give more budgetary allocations to the states that are actually taking measures to control pollution. So unless you do something like this, you fix accountability and you fix targets, Delhi pollution, I'm very sorry to say, will not come down.
Well, let's keep in mind that this commission and this law that's been brought in also has powers to penalize those who resort to stubble burning. Now, not to say that it's not happening already. State governments in Punjab and Haryana have booked hundreds of farmers. I mean, I don't know what happens after these farmers are booked and what action is taken, but at least the cases are filed. Will this commission be able to go beyond that, or will they be able to make the state governments act on it? I don't know. In fact, that's a question I wanted to ask Ritvik Datta. Ritvik, a lot of the implementation will come down to the state governments. In such a scenario, what powers does the commission have? For example, yes, we will take action against the stubble burning violators, but isn't that something that the state police at the end of the day will do?
See, it's a first of all very good question, because if you look at it here, what is the power that the commission has? The power that the commission has is the power to issue directions. So it can direct. Now, and it says that once it gives a direction, the authority person or the government is bound to comply with it. So if there is a stubble burning happening by a farmer, the commission will issue a direction to the farmer or an industry, whoever is violating it. Now look at the situation that comes in. The violator then, the one who has violated or burning stubble, refuses to comply with the direction. It's bound to happen. These directions issued by EPCA was not even worth the paper in which it was printed in last 22 years. And then what happens there is that they will not comply with it. Then the commission, under the law, is required to go before a judicial magistrate first class. So if it happens in Kapurthala, this commission will then have to go before the magistrate there and file a criminal complaint. The commission has no power to issue a fine. It has nothing. It has to file a complaint before the magistrate. The magistrate will then examine the witness, the evidence, and then will pass a judgment on this, imposing it. So it will be a judicial criminal trial. And based on the trial, the thing will happen. And this is the reason why there is no prosecution under the provision of Air Act and Water Act in whole of India. Hardly 10 cases are filed, 20 cases are filed. And that is the reason why EPCA, Mr. Bhurelal said, I am not going to go and stand in the court to prosecute an offender. Yes, if you have officers of the level of chief secretaries, they are not going to go and prosecute offences. So therefore, let's not get blinded by this idea of 1 crore fine and 5 years jail. It will never happen. It will never happen for the reason that this body has not been empowered to give spot fines. A police inspector in Delhi or a sub-inspector who finds somebody without a mask has more power than this multi-member commission formed with this committee. It will see it and then send a request letter, which will be ignored. After that, trust me, they will never file a complaint. Let the central government show what complaint they have ever filed against any violator in any of the states. It's not a party issue. Haryana has never filed a case. So a state of Haryana is that Uttar Pradesh has never filed a complaint against anybody under the provision of Air Act and Water Act. They feel guilty when they file it. It's because one industry, and so far as power plants are concerned, within 300 kilometers of Delhi, power plants have been approved even today. Khurja power plant, within 100 kilometers. It will undo all the benefits that will happen, assuming that stubble burning does not take place. Is there a moratorium in place? Is there a seriousness? Today, the government officially does not recognize air pollution as a health issue. That is why it has not bothered to put even Ministry of Health in the committee. It does not consider it as a social issue. That is why it has ensured that only representative bodies of commerce and industry will be members. Why not have farmers' body? Nothing at all. So therefore, in one way, we are going to be in a situation worse off. Let's put it like this, there's no way we're going to be better off. And I agree to the colleague from CSE saying, Mr. Chattopadhyay, that yes, It will only save them, because whatever little Supreme Court monitoring was happening, that will also finish. It will be a bureaucratic driven body to save and ensure that status quo remains. So I'll be very honest. It is fine. We have to be optimistic, but there has to be reason. I looked at the law since morning to find if there is one optimistic, but the only part is you have included representative from all the states. But then those representatives are not going to take action against themselves. That's it.
Actually, yeah, that was something that came to my mind as well, that if the representatives of all states are there, which is fair because you need to have them come together at the same table and have a conversation, but they're not going to be taking action against themselves. And what you said hit hard, Ritvik, that a cop on the road who's fining people and penalizing people for not wearing a mask probably has more power than what this commission does in the current structure. That is something that I want viewers to actually think about when we debate this. Mr. Vivek Chattopadhyay, what could have been done or what can still be added or changed? At the end of the day, we still need to find ways to curb pollution in the national capital.
Chief, this commission has been set in motion, and also like the structure and the framework and the architecture and the blueprint has been decided. One thing is missing, that the willingness, whether the willingness of the committee remains to act on the violator. Okay, and we have to differentiate between violators. Farmers are violators because of their practices, agriculture practices. So you have to devise a mechanism that farmers move away from water intensive crops to other crops. Okay, so water is also saved and they don't grow paddy there. And also they have to have means to check the stubble burning. For example, if you give money to a child saying that it is your school fee and there is no school, there are no teachers, what's the use of money? So the just giving incentive doesn't work. You have to have machines in all the villages. You have to have training in the villages. You have to handhold the farmers. You have to help the small and marginal farmers. You have to make accountable the the rich farmers who have the big lands. So I think the state governments of UP, Haryana, and Punjab have to be more responsible and more in a way they have to handle the situation with a more holistic way. Right now it is happening like ban and police case, FIR. So it doesn't work in this case because we have to differentiate between a survival emissions and what is being polluted in Delhi by the big cars and the millions of vehicles that are flying in Delhi and NCR. So aren't like we say 20% right now? I was looking at the data. 20% contribution from Punjab and other places to PM 2.5 in Delhi. 80% is from the local region, Delhi and NCR. So why 20% is talked so much that 80% is forgotten? 80% has vehicles, industries, power plants, various garbage burning, major garbage dumps in Delhi, which are growing in bigger size. We haven't implemented the waste management properly. I think that the situation has reached to a stage that we have to have a court-led monitoring. Otherwise, if we take out the court from the scene, the bureaucratic system has. I have little faith. But if they act honestly and go beyond their rule book and take public health and clean air as an agenda, right now they don't even believe. Central government says that there is no link between air pollution and deaths. They are denying it, the facts. So I think public health has to be taken a major point while we are growing. The GDP cannot grow without public health, protecting public health. We cannot have a future generation who are
Well, you know, that's one thing, Mr. Chattopadhyay, that's highly ignored in our country. Public health just doesn't even factor in, come on the radar of our political parties and our governments, and that's nothing could make it more obvious than the pandemic that we've just gone through and you know what it threw up as the reality of our country. The fact that pollution has been a big problem for the past 3 decades, but almost every single step has actually come either led by the Supreme Court or at the behest or on the instruction of the Supreme Court. That's what's happened in this case. When will the government start taking responsibility to bring about a change? I don't think they will, because it usually doesn't help them. They rather look out for their own vote bank interest than to really put in any effort in terms of pollution. I'll give you one simple example as I thank our panelists. Stubble burning. This wasn't even an issue about over a decade ago. It wasn't such a big problem. We weren't talking 15 years ago of how stubble burning in Punjab and Haryana is leading to pollution in Delhi. But that's also happened because our agricultural policy changed. The states brought in a change in their policies that effectively pushed the entire sowing pattern from mid-summer to October and reduced the gap between the rice and the wheat season, which is why farmers are now in a rush in about October to burn and get rid of the stubble, a time when the wind conditions are such that all of that smoke goes to the national capital. Perhaps a relook at your agri policy. Incentives to look at other options than just paddy cultivation, or when it's done and how it's done. Incentives for them to find alternatives for the stubble burning. These are the things that the governments need to look into. Policy moves and policy decisions. Setting up a commission at the end of the day is not going to solve a problem. But let's be hopeful. Let's see what it manages to do, and if it indeed manages to bring in a little bit of breather for the people of Delhi. Thank you for joining us on this conversation.